I'm sure a lot of international investors are wondering where the hell are all the international companies and stocks? I mean, YouTubers aren't covering it. I'm not talking about, the financial media isn't, analysts aren't covering them, but they're there, right? Well, a while back I did a video on European stocks and it has become really popular, so it seems like you guys are starving for something other than Tesla, Apple and Microsoft. So I'm back for a part 2 with European growth stocks. So I'm going to exclude the biggest, most boring, slow-moving giants here, because if I didn't, well, I'd fall asleep by the end of the video. And I'm going to have to split this one into 2 parts because there are so many countries and so many companies to cover. Let's get going. Now, if we look at the European stock market over the years, it has severely underperformed the US. And if we look at the Vanguard FTSE Europe or the FTSE 100 or Euro Stoxx 30, we see that they've done like 18, 29 and 71% over the last 10 years respectively, while the S&P has done 207%. And it doesn't get much better when we go back in time. So this, I think, is the prime reason why investors tend to shy away from Europe. But of course, where there are problems, there are also opportunities, and an undervalued and underanalyzed stock market can make for great investing opportunities. So I wouldn't shy away just because of the poor performance. So without further ado, from the fashion walks of France to the snowy forests of Sweden, let's take a trip to Europe. Now, speaking of Sweden, I think that is a fantastic place to start. Now, it seems like the cold winters up there really brings out the best in people, maybe because they have to stay inside thinking about how they're going to beat the rest of the world half the year. No matter what, the country ranks like the highest in innovation and in business environment, so it is a great place for businesses. And our first company up is the pride of Sweden, Volvo. So this is one of the world's premier car manufacturers. They are especially good at making SUVs, so with their XC series, and they've recently made a big push into EVs with the Polestar brand, which is a separate entity from Volvo but under the same umbrella. And they also do well in electric trucks, and they make industrial and manufacturing equipments, construction equipments. They make engines for ships and various other things. So it's truly like an industrial giant. The stock is actually done really well compared to most industrials, and it pays a whopping 7% dividend. So here we have a good performing stock with a 7% dividend. They're making a push into electric vehicles and trucks, and it's just overall a good recovery play, and it seems to be one of the best industrials out there, so definitely one to watch out for. So moving on to Nordnet, which is an online broker firm operating in the Nordic region, so Norway, Sweden, Denmark and Finland. This is the broker I actually use. They're purely online, and they offer investing services of various kinds in 4 robust and quite lucrative financial markets. The stock recently IPO'd back in late 2020, I believe it was November or December, and the stock is already up like 65%, and the revenue growth is through the roof, and I believe from 19 to 20, so in 12 months they grew revenue by 75%, so this is a red hot stock and a company definitely want to look out for. There's lots of money washing around up north, and these guys are on it, and they're online, and they're popular with young people. I use them. It's a great service, one to look out for. Now, we're not done with Sweden yet. This is actually the country I have the most companies from. So we're moving on to Paradox Interactive, which is a gaming play. They don't make the most popular games, but they have several fairly well-known titles like Europe Universalis, Crusader Kings, Prison Architect, City Skyline and Planetfall. You might have heard of them. If you're a mobile gamer, you probably have. They have, lots of titles. They're pushing out lots of DLCs. They're in mobile gaming, which is a strong market. They doubled revenue from 15 to 19, so still a growth stock. They've got a massive positive net income and plenty of cash in the bank. In fact, be right back. I'm just going to So yeah, seems like a great stock. I like gaming. I like small growing tech companies with a strong balance sheet. And if you don't like Take-Two Interactive or Activision Blizzard, who makes the big box games, this is definitely one to look for. Now, last one out of Sweden, you're probably tired of Sweden by now, is Investor AB. So this is an investing firm, and it's basically a buy and hold investor just like me. So you get an investment firm with a portfolio that consists of companies like ABB, AstraZeneca, Atlas Copco, Electrolux, Epiroc, Ericsson, Husqvarna, Nasdaq, Saab, and so on. They also have a sort of a venture capitalist arm that invests and wholly owns smaller companies. So this is basically just a buy and hold investor that invests in mostly Swedish, Nordic, but at least European only companies, and I think it has outpaced the S&P 500 slightly, and it pays a 2.3% dividend yield. So I think it's a decent chance that this is, better than Warren Buffett or S&P 500, and that it's just a buy and hold company that actually seems to be able to beat the indexes, at least the European indexes. So seems like a safe play, and looks like a good stock. Now let's put on the kettle and move over to Great Britain. And as the world's fifth largest economy and Europe's second, the company is known for its energy companies, banks, and pharmaceutical firms. And before I get going, I was planning on adding GW Pharmaceuticals, but they were recently acquired by Jazz Pharmaceuticals. What on earth is that kind of name? On February 3rd. So yeah. So we're starting off instead with the Games Workshop, which is the company behind the Warhammer universe. So they make money from the actual figurines that you sit there, painstaking work, licensing their titles to stuff like Warhammer Online, the big strategy game, and they all even make their own games now with Warhammer Chaos Bane. This stock is on fire. The company has done really, really well. They more than doubled revenue since 2016. This is a great stay-at-home stock. It's a really nerdy, geeky stock, but the customers in those sorts of markets are very resilient. They're basically grown-up dudes with way too much money, way too much time on their hand, and they're spending a lot of money. And this has turned out to be a solid company and solid all-around stock. So if you can afford their shares, I believe they're up at like £2,000, which is like $2,400 per share. I'd consider picking up one. So our second company out of the UK is Ocado. Cool name. It is an online supermarket and e-commerce player, as well as a developer and seller of technologies and automated solutions to help other e-commerce players. So you get a bit of both here. It is a very much so talked about stock, and although the company is bleeding money and is struggling to convert spending into revenue growth, I think it's a very interesting play. I like e-commerce, I like robotics and automation. This is the best of both worlds. It's something other than Amazon, so definitely an interesting one to look out for. Oh, the video is really getting on now. So moving on to Farfetch, which is an online luxury store coming out of the UK. They sell stuff from brands like Dolce & Gabbana, Burberry, Prada, and Saint Laurent. Seems like a good play. I am a big fan of high fashion and luxury, not personally, but as an investor. I think it's a very robust market, recession-proof almost. The company comfortably doubled revenue from 2017 to 19, so in just 2 years. And although they lose like 10% of the revenue in negative net income, it's still a young and growing company. So definitely an interesting play if you're looking for e-commerce or fashion coming out of Europe. Moving on to France, the baguette of the stock market. It's awkwardly shaped, seems like a just inferior alternative to bread, but there's just something about it that fascinates us. And besides painters like Monet, Renoir, or Cézanne, or buildings like Versailles or Les Invalides, France also has some pretty impressive companies and economy. Now, the pride of France is their aircraft manufacturer, Airbus. So I've been a big fan of this company for a long time. I like Airbus and Boeing because they One operates a duopoly on the global stage in a big market. They get lucrative military contracts and they can make money from the future of space travel. So this is a great company. I think it's a great reopening stock. They make money from commercial jets, private jets, various military aircrafts and missiles, and plenty of space parts. So one of the best industrials coming out of Europe for sure. And you know, between Boeing and Airbus, I would actually have difficulty deciding. The stock also pays like a 1.5% dividend. So overall, if you're looking for a blue chip European stock, I think this is pretty much the best one. Now, of course, there's no France without Louis Vuitton. Now, someone corrected me last time. I said Louis Vuitton. I guess it's Louis Vuitton. This is the world's largest luxury fashion merchant, and they own brands like Louis Vuitton, Tiffany & Company, Marc Jacobs, Dior, Perignon, and Princess Yachts. Now, as I mentioned, I like the luxury segment. It's very robust, and the money keeps coming in no matter what. Again, it is one of the go-to blue chip stocks coming out of Europe. The revenue is growing at between 10 and 15%. Net income somewhere in the ballpark as well. Pays a steady dividend. So yeah, if you like fashion, if you like luxury or e-commerce, or you're just looking for a blue chip stock, I think this is pretty much my pick as far as big, well-known companies in Europe goes. So now real quick in here, I'll just get the question of the day. I'm not going to make it long. It's come from Senko M, as always. I hope my comment will not disappear this time. Can you make a review for simply wall.st, or in general, which websites do you use to follow balance sheets, PE ratios? You know, you can find all financial metrics and the entire balance sheet on Wall Street Journal, on Yahoo Finance, Google Finance, investing.com. Doesn't really matter. I don't use any websites in particular. Stuff like revenue growth, cash flow, and PE ratio can be found anywhere. I just Google it. I take the first thing that pops up. So the last country out in part one is going to be Norway. Now, this is on the list because I live here. It's my home country. By far the greatest achievement of Norway. It is a very robust economy and a lucrative market for companies, much thanks to our sovereign wealth fund, natural resources, and tiny population. So the first company out, and I'm only going to have two here, and it's both growth companies, is going to be Tomra. So this is a reverse vending player. Now, Tomra's bread and butter is reverse plastic bottle and metal can vending machines. So in Norway, whenever you buy a plastic bottle or a metal can container, you pay a little bit extra money on top of the original price, and then you get that back when you turn it in and you put it into a machine in order to recycle it. So in Norway, we recycle and reuse pretty much all plastic bottles. Now, why don't every country do this? Well, good question, and that's what Tomra is also asking themselves. So they're specialists in reverse vending and recycling of all sorts of materials. They make the machines and they make sensors that can sort out plastic bottles, metal cans, and food waste. So I hope that all countries start using this system where you reward people for recycling stuff with giving them money. But of course, the money can't just come from, falling out of the sky. So you make them pay more in advance to make sure they come back and recycle it. I think this is a great play. They have a lot of potential internationally. I mean, reverse cycling is pretty much only big in Norway, maybe a bit in the UK. So plenty of room to grow here. The second company out of Norway, and finally the last company in this part one of European stocks, is Scatec Solar. So this is a solar, hydro and a little bit of wind farm developer. So they have farms all over the world, mainly solar and hydro, where there's a lot of sun and a lot of water. They are currently producing 1,600 gigawatt or 1.6, and they are targeting 4.5 by the end of 2021. Not sure how they're going to do that, but the company doesn't lack optimism apparently. So this is a small, fast-growing renewable energy company, so it doesn't get much better than that. And the revenue growth have been all over the place, but in 18 to 19, so the most recent one, revenues jumped 57% in just 12 months. And so if the company can maintain this, I think investors are in for a treat. It's a very popular stock, and it's up like 800% since its IPO back in 2017. So if you're looking for renewable energy, which I know a lot of you are, and you're looking for a European one, this might be one to pick up. So that's my part one. Not going to do a big outro here. Just stay tuned for part two. I know these videos are very long. So for this one, I did Sweden, UK, and Norway. Next one, we've got Germany, we've got Netherlands, Switzerland, Italy, Spain, everything coming up in part two. Thanks so much for watching. You deserve, I don't know, something if you made it through the whole video. Hope I see my next one. See ya.